All right, welcome. This is Chris Petri, and again, we're painting in oils. Let's have a fun time. This is going to be our scene, a sunset in Venice. We have a gondolier guiding his boat here over this beautiful scene. We have all of our paints and paint mixes will be on camera. We as well have our photograph, our reference photograph we'll have on scene at all times on the actual video. So this is just to show you the close-up of the painting, and then once we get started you'll see that we have everything on camera, our photograph on our phone, we have our paints all set up on our palette paper, wax paper essentially. And so we're going to have everything all ready to go in just a second. Thanks again for coming by, and we'll get started right now. Alright, so we just saw the finished painting and we're just kind of moving along here. We're again kind of working on another sunset style painting. We might as well stick with a few of these maybe for a few sessions, and then we can move on to something different. But usually it's good if you can kind of work on a few of the very similar type paintings. I know that helps me a lot. I'm hoping that you'll gain some value from that, of maybe just working on a similar composition or two. We're going to do the gondola, of course, here, and the background of Venice. And I think what I'll do is we'll go with a real light wash first with a purplish orange, red-orange. So I think I'll try to get most of the so we'll have some purple. I'm going to make purple from the French ultramarine blue and the alizarin crimson. A little bit of white. And some cadmium red. And some yellow ochre. Like that. And if your colors aren't exactly perfect, you don't have to worry about it. You can start to infuse maybe some different colors into the mixes if you want to. So I added a little bit of cerulean blue over here. Maybe take a little bit of white. And that little bit of white maybe just makes it a little more softer looking. Gives it more of that atmospheric look. I'm just trying to get the paint on real thin and make sure I'm covering everything, all the grains of the paper, the fine fibers of the board here. I'm just mixing some more of that blue. Bluish purple. With the alizarin crimson. And we take our time with this here as we blend everything in together. And the reason why we go a little bit slower with a little bit of a smaller brush here is we definitely want to go on real thin with this. That gives us an advantage of making it easier to paint the other city behind, or the city in the distance here. So the thinner you can go on your first glazing, the easier it is to paint over top. And you can also do a first glazing like this and let it dry for 3 or 4 days and then come back and paint over top. The only thing that's, if you do let the paint dry for a few days, let's say 2 or 3 days till it gets completely 100% dry, then the issue becomes then you're not able to kind of blend the colors a little more. So if you work everything at one time when you're doing your paintings like this, you get to the advantage of blending colors a little more and adjusting colors a little more. If you have a set priming color underneath when you start and you let that dry again 100%, and then when you go back into to paint your additional glazings, you will notice that it's a little more difficult to blend colors and get some more of the interesting mixes that you can get if it's all kind of all painting at one time a la prima, in one wet, as they say. And we're almost there. A little bit of white, alizarin crimson, French ultramarine blue, just a touch of the French ultramarine blue. Okay, and then once we get this completed like we have, then you can go in and add a little more paint and color to maybe adjust it a little more if you want to lighten it or darken it. But you can see we've got good coverage. This. Okay, everything is covered nicely. And we can go in with a little more lighter, maybe some lighter orange, cadmium red. Alizarin crimson. Okay, so I mix the color close to what I want and then I lighten it up. Let's see if that's... Okay, pretty good. And what I'll do is I won't put it everywhere. I'm just going to kind of get it on like so, leaving some darks in there too. And we'll go over with even some more different paint applications on top of this. But we'll get it like that now. For now, like that. And I'm sticking with the same space division, so about a little bit below halfway is where the back of that starts here. The city line, the tree line back here, that starts about a little bit less than halfway up the painting. So that's about here. Could even be a little lower, like there. So that's going to be about where that will be. And I'll take my brush and Rinse it off good. Okay, so I rinse off my brush really well, and then I squeeze out any of the water in there, like that. And what I'll do now is I'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll mix up a little bit of the darker tones here for the city, the Venice, in here in the background here, like middle distance to the, kind of like the distant shoreline. And then from there we can put in the gondola and the sun. So let's try that. Next, let's just take a quick break first, and we'll keep working. Okay, so we're moving along here. I just wanted to lift off this tape so I could paint the rest of that top of the canvas here, like that. Now, I'll probably block in some of the lights here. So I'm going to use cerulean white. Cerulean white paint to start with. Cerulean here. A little bit of the French ultramarine blue. Pick up a little bit of the red. A little more white, maybe a touch of brown. I'm thinking this has a little bit of the red green. I'm going to put a little bit of the Viridian in there. It's kind of dark. Okay, let's try that. I'll start out with the, and then I notice this isn't dark enough, so I will French ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, a little bit of brown, a little bit of green. And I get some really awkward glare off of my lights when I'm working like this with oil paint because it's very, very glossy oil paint. So I'm going to have to eventually start rearranging some things in my studio because it really is hard to see the color right now. And I don't think it's my... It's a little better. So I think I will just go right across here. I'm going to stick with the picture, just like I see it in the picture. I'm just trying to get in that good dark, block in the really good dark. I can always go over with the lighter. And I'll get some of those finer details like the points, the spires of some of the buildings. And then when I get over here, I'm going to go with a little more burnt umber. And some green, viridian green, burnt umber, blue, a little bit of red. It's a little bit darker there. That could be more of the city area, so I'm going to kind of blend this in a little more. Maybe I won't go with as much detail as I'm seeing actually. I'll use my smaller brush to do the finer details of the spires and things like that. And then And then I don't worry if I overpaint something. I can always come back and scrape a little bit or paint over that. Okay. Put a couple of details like that. Then I'll move to a smaller brush. Quite a bit smaller, but the same colors. Then I'm going to try to get the top of this dome. That. Okay, there's another dome here. And then another tower over here. With spire. More dark, alizarin crimson, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. And let's see if I can get some darker darks here. And then what we do is when we get those darks in like that, we have to pretty much just keep on taking paint off the brush, because what happens is once we put that dark in there, we pick up some of the other paint that we put on. So that's how we can just kind of keep the paint dark. Take more of that off, and then pick up more dark. Same thing. Dry it off. Take off some of that lighter paint that we're picking up as we go across like that. Do the same thing here. Pick up some dark. See how far we can go. Dry that and take the other paint off there. Pick up more dark. Like that. Same thing. Dry off the brush. Pick up more darks. It's kind of just like a process of stop and go. And again, you could do a priming of the whole canvas and let that dry like for 3 or 4 days or so, and then paint over the top of this with these darker colors. That also works. That's definitely a good method to also do these paintings, to sort of, it's easier to sometimes have a drier, like middle tone prime on your canvas, where you can kind of work on top of that, so that you already have like a darker tone established. And we've done that in previous paintings on my channel, so we can go back and reference those if we want, and we'll do more in the future, more paintings in the future where we'll prime the canvas. A few paintings here we're just going right with the white canvas, straight cloth canvas, hardboard canvas I should say. But I think that's getting to where we want it to be. You know, it could be a little bit lighter. Here we see some things we can maybe adjust. Again, we can get in there and do some lights like that. Get some lights in there, maybe here and there. And again, I take off some of the paint, go in and get maybe some of that dark again. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, alizarin crimson, a little bit of phthalo green. And a few more details. There's a little bit of darks along the bottom here. Then we can make this other bit of darks here. Burnt umber, lots of burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, phthalo green. I'll mix it up with this brush, and then what I'll do is I'll rinse that off in the water, in my water container, and then I'll get a smaller brush, a pointier brush, a round brush, like that. And now we can get some of these darker. There's like a dock over here and a pier with the dark. Like that. So we'll get that here. Get some more windows here. Okay, and there's some boats out there, so we'll just some boats here. I think I'm going to maybe make this the shoreline here along these buildings a little bit. I'm going to fix that up a little bit. So I can do that by getting my other brush again, this one here. And more paper towel, try off my brush here. And this is that smaller brush we were using before. That's a number 2 filbert brush. And I'll pick up some of this water, which is reflecting the sky with that beautiful orangey glow. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I can definitely see how I can get that back again. Like that. Rinse off the brush, dry off the water and the paint. Pick up some more. And just get that line a little bit better along this here. Okay, much better. And we can also use that very fine. We have another finer brush. I guess this one might be a 2/0. And this one we can take some of this. Then we can also, sometimes I'll take a dowel and put it across so I can kind of get a little more of a steady, and we'll just put some light in the tops of the spires, like that. And that sometimes can really enhance the light of the picture. And there might even be some more here, so I'll dry off my brush again there, pick up some more of that. And there's like a little bit more light there. Like that. That looks good. Okay, so we can also add in our sun. Let's do that. That's going to be a little more yellow here. A little bit of cadmium yellow with orange, or cadmium, I should say cadmium yellow, which looks like orange, and then we'll pick up some of that white. I think that should be good. And we'll put it right about here. Rinse off a little bit. And then if you have to, you dry off your brush really well. Rinse off your brush, dry it off really well, and then you can come back in and get some of that sky color that we had mixed before to just to fix up that a little bit. So if you don't make a perfect circle, you just go back in, grab a little bit of your sky color that's left on your palette, and you can just easily do that. And then if you wanted to, you could even take a little bit more white to get that little bit of more of a lighter tone on the sun. So you can take the white like that, and then just take a little bit of this, just to have a little bit of that tone to it, color and tone, but quite a bit lighter. And then again, you can take the dowel and then just put a little bit of the lighter. Maybe even straight white might work. Like that. That looks good. If you have a little too much paint on there, not a problem. You can just dry off some of that paint onto a paper towel to clean off the brush, and then just go in and lift off a little bit. Like that. Okay. Maybe a little bit of red on the bottom there. Orangey red. Okay. All right, let's take another break. I think we're almost completed. I think the last thing we'll do is we'll do the gondola, and with the figure, the a little more of the water, maybe just a little bit of darks in the water. I think if we add some dark bits of little choppiness to the water with some darker purplish blue. I think that'll give us the look of the choppiness of the water, and more, it'll accentuate the lighter feel of the water here. So let's try that next. All right, so we'll take a quick break and we'll start up again in just a few minutes. All right, we're starting to wrap up things here. I might just kind of smooth out a few details here that we might have had. Maybe add a few details. I might add a little detail here to this portion of the dome. Okay, that's enough details there. Let's start picking up the really thick, rich paint here for our gondola. And we're going to put the gondola, we're going to say that it's right about here in the picture, right about there. So the figure in the gondola is right about here. So we're going to do that. All right, and then we're going to go across here. I may make it a little bit closer to the bottom border of the painting. And then again, I'll dry off that paint. We're picking up a lot of paint now off of the water. So as we paint, you'll see it starts to get lighter and lighter. That means we have to take some of that paint off the brush and start with a clean brush again. And then sort of get back to the dark parts here. And it's even, we'll have to mix up some more darks. Burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. Let's grab a whole bunch of that. And then some, again, lots of red, rosewood crimson, some of that green, the phthalo green. Okay, lots of that. Okay. Okay, so we have a gondola there. And I won't get into tremendous detail, as you can see here. I'm going to try to, let's see, we have a little bit of a, okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to leave that as is. Less is more, so I'm not going to keep going and going and going, trying to make it look better and better. I think the first few brush strokes is going to look good enough. I kind of can see the basic shapes of everything. That seems to be good. Let's get the finer brush here. So again, I'm going to the 2/0 brush. And of course I'll have my paper towel. Now I'll try to get a little more fine detail on the figure. So I'll load my brush up with some darks here, not too much, since I'm going to do some finer details. So I just put a little bit of that dark bit of paint there on there. Let's get the figure there, and he's got his shoulder here and his arm here. I'll dry off again there, get some of that paint again. I'll dry it off here. I want to see if I can just get a very faint line of the ore going across the pole like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to try to get some of those darks in we were talking about. Maybe not quite as dark as the gondola now. Now we're going to get back into over here into some of this grayer mix that we had before. As long as it's close to matching the sky, which it is. It's got purple, red, orange, blue. Then we'll pick up some of that, but it's going to have to be thick though. Might have to put a little bit of white in it, just to lighten it up a bit. We'll see if we can get some dark bits of... That looks good. I think that'll be fine. You can darken them up if you want. Then I would just say if we kind of make them choppy like this, like the water, that's going to look better. Kind of have fun getting those on like this, just kind of, I guess, like the motion of the water going up and down. Swoop some this way like this, a couple this way. We can even make a few here and there. They get smaller as they go further into the distance here. And this is kind of a fun actually, though they have to be small, I would go to a smaller brush maybe, or a pointier brush I should say, like this. Let's see if I can get, yeah, that's better. See, more of a pointier brush here, and that will get us a better result there. And then as super dark as I can get it, or just maybe a few of them. Okay, and I don't want to go overboard. I think that's good. That's plenty. Maybe just a few more over here. Lighter. You can even lighten them up, some of them. And you can always lift up a few with some paper towel if you just want to do a quick. Like that. All right, I think that is good. Only thing I would consider doing here would be maybe just a little touch up on the distant shoreline. Let's see if I can do that. I think it's a little darker in the painting, the shoreline. Okay, we'll call that finished. I'm glad you again joined here to paint along. We're having a fun time learning oil painting, and it's basically just a process of repeating things, learning some new things here and there as we go. We could do a little bit of finer details here and there on some of these buildings here. Just a couple of little dabs and dots and dashes and things like that can also, you can do in the end to capture some of the details you might see along the tops of the buildings. Here as well, there's some of them. That. And we'll call that complete. Again, we'll see you soon. Another 2 weeks and we'll be back and we'll be creating another beautiful oil painting. Maybe we'll change and do something more like a landscape, since we've been doing a few water scenes, seascape scenes. Let's do maybe something like a landscape. We'll try that next on the next video coming up in 2 weeks. We'll see you then.